Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Sean Payton has never built a football team the way most coaches do. He's talked about this openly for years. Football, to him, is chess. Every piece has a defined role. The knight does what a knight does. The rook does what a rook does. And once you actually sit down and study the rosters that won Sean Payton a Super Bowl in New Orleans, then compare them player for player against what he's assembled in Denver over these past 2 off seasons, something genuinely remarkable starts to emerge. This isn't just a coach applying similar principles to a new team. This looks like a coach who found the exact archetypes that won him a championship once before and went out and found modern versions of every single one of them. If that comparison holds up the way it appears to, Broncos country, you need to understand what that actually means for this season. Let's start with the obvious one, because it's the foundation everything else gets built on top of. Quarterback, Bo Nix has become the modern equivalent of Drew Brees in this offense, and this isn't some loose, surface-level comparison invented for a YouTube thumbnail. Nix actually trained with Brees personally last offseason, spending over a week directly under his guidance, and the two remain in regular contact to this day. Physically, they're different. Nix is bigger and considerably more athletic than Brees ever was in his prime. But the underlying trait that made Brees so devastating in this exact system is present in Nix too, an uncanny, almost supernatural ability to avoid negative plays and get the ball out before pressure arrives. Brees did it through pure processing speed and anticipation. Nix does it partly through that same football IQ, but also through his legs and his athleticism, which frankly gives Sean Payton an even more dangerous toolkit to work with than he had in his prime Saints years. It's also worth being honest that Nix's underlying efficiency metrics took a real step back in year 2, with some analysts flagging concerning drop-back success rate numbers even while Denver was winning games behind a dominant defense. That's exactly why adding real difference-making talent around him mattered so much this offseason. The quarterback comparison to Brees is about traits and trajectory, not a finished product yet. Now let's get to the receivers, because this is where the comparisons genuinely start to feel uncanny. In that 2009 championship season, Drew Brees had a 6'4", 225-pound possession receiver who caught 70 passes for over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns, a player who consistently won contested catches and dominated in the red zone with pure size and body control. That player was Marques Colston. Now look at who's occupying that exact role in Denver. Courtland Sutton. Same frame, same game. Same value as a big-bodied possession threat who dominates in contested situations and near the goal line. And this isn't a hometown comparison invented to make a fun video. Sutton has been recognized by his own NFL peers as a legitimate top 100 player in the entire league. Payton has talked openly about wanting players who look like they're getting off the team bus like a group of basketball players. Big, long, athletic frames, and Sutton fits that mold to the letter. Then there's the player who might be the single most exciting comparison on this entire roster. On that same championship Saints team, Payton had a receiver named Devery Henderson, a smaller, blazing fast, pure yards after catch weapon who averaged nearly 18 yards per reception for his career and consistently seemed to find himself wide open deep down the field. In that Super Bowl season specifically, Henderson posted over 800 yards on 15.8 yards per catch. Now look at what Denver just did this offseason. They traded for Jalen Waddle, sending a first, third, and fourth-round pick to Miami to get him. Waddle is the modern Devery Henderson almost perfectly. A smaller, sub-6-foot receiver with legitimate blow-the-top-off speed and elite ability after the catch. Analysts around the league have already noted exactly what Waddle brings to this specific offense, describing him as a player who runs sharper, faster route breaks than anyone else currently on Denver's roster, and someone who should specifically pull coverage attention away from Sutton on underneath and intermediate routes. Bo Nix himself has talked about what Waddle's presence means for the entire receiving corps, saying that having a player like that provides relief for everyone else in the room, keeping other targets fresher because they're not being asked to shoulder the entire workload themselves. That's exactly the dynamic Devery Henderson provided next to Colston back in 2009. There's a third receiver comparison worth mentioning too, and it involves a name that even hardcore Saints fans sometimes forget: Robert Meacham, a receiver who consistently snuck behind defenses for explosive plays without ever becoming a marquee name in that Saints offense. The physical and positional comparison for that specific archetype in Denver's current room points directly to Troy Franklin, who came into the league at a similar height and weight profile and has publicly stated his specific goal this offseason was adding roughly 10 pounds of functional muscle. Whether that translates into a Meacham-level role remains to be seen once training camp actually gets underway, but the archetype match is there on paper. Now let's talk about the running back room, because this might be the deepest and most fascinating comparison of the entire breakdown. During that Saints championship run, Payton famously spread his backfield workload across three completely different backs, each filling a distinct role rather than leaning on one bell cow rusher. Reggie Bush provided explosive receiving production out of the backfield without needing a heavy workload of actual carries. Pierre Thomas provided a steady, complete two-way threat who racked up genuine volume as both a runner and receiver. And Mike Bell, a name Broncos fans specifically might remember since he actually played for Denver himself, provided a rotational complementary punch. Now look at what Denver has assembled in its own backfield heading into 2026. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, and Jonah Coleman represent almost the exact same three-way split. Payton has already signaled that R.J. Harvey profiles as this offense's version of Reggie Bush, the joker weapon who may not command a heavy number of actual handoffs, but who creates explosive plays and mismatches whenever he touches the football in space. J.K. Dobbins slots in as this era's Pierre Thomas, a back capable of real two-way volume if he stays healthy, without needing to single-handedly carry the entire rushing workload on his shoulders. And that's precisely the point of building a three-man rotation like this in the first place. Spreading the workload is exactly how you keep your best backs healthy and productive across a full 17-game season rather than running one player into the ground by November. And here's a detail that genuinely elevates this whole comparison from clever pattern recognition into something that feels almost too on the nose to be a coincidence. Darren Sproles, the electric, undersized pass-catching back who terrorized defenses in space during Payton's later Saints years, is reportedly stepping directly into an internship coaching role with the Denver Broncos this season. Sproles himself, the archetype for exactly the shifty, space-creating role that R.J. Harvey now occupies on this roster, will be right there in the building helping develop Harvey and Jonah Coleman in real time. That's not just a stylistic parallel anymore. That's a direct, tangible link between the blueprint and the execution of it. At tight end, the pattern holds up too, even if it requires slightly more nuance to explain. In that 2009 Super Bowl season, Payton had Jeremy Shockey, a physical, bruising tight end who could genuinely block and run through contact, more of a traditional inline presence than an explosive, athletic mismatch weapon. That archetype in Denver's current tight end room maps more closely to a player like Adam Troutman. But Payton's offense has evolved as the years went on, and by the time Jimmy Graham arrived in New Orleans, tight end became something closer to a full-blown receiving weapon, a basketball player disguised as a blocker who created matchup nightmares against linebackers and safeties alike. That's exactly the role Evan Engram and Justin Jolie profile into within Denver's current tight end room, genuine athletic mismatches rather than traditional blocking specialists. Payton himself has drawn this exact comparison publicly, connecting his current tight end personnel directly back to the Jimmy Graham archetype from his Saints years. And then there's one final receiver comparison worth closing on because it might be the most specific and interesting of the entire group. Michael Thomas, nicknamed the Slant God during his prime years in New Orleans, built his entire reputation on an almost unfair ability to consistently win short, quick breaking routes and generate yards after contact through pure route-running precision. The player who's already drawn that exact comparison within Denver's current receiver room is Pat Bryant, who flashed real signs of that exact kind of role during the tail end of last season's playoff run before injuries limited his opportunities, including a stretch where he commanded the first 4 targets of a critical postseason game before being forced out. So when you actually step back and look at the complete picture here, a modern Drew Brees under center who trained directly with the man himself, a big-bodied possession X-receiver mirroring Marques Colston, a blazing speed weapon acquired specifically to replicate the Devery Henderson role, a developing deep threat profiling as this era's Robert Meacham, a 3-way running back rotation built on the exact same Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas, and Mike Bell framework, complete with the actual Darren Sproles now coaching that exact room in real time, and a tight end group split between traditional blocking value and Jimmy Graham-style athletic mismatches. This stops looking like coincidence. This looks like a coach who knows precisely which pieces won him a championship before and who spent this entire offseason systematically acquiring modern versions of every single one of them. And remember, this entire breakdown is only talking about the offensive side of the football. Everyone already knows what this Denver defense is capable of being this season. If this offense can get anywhere close to functioning the way Sean Payton's championship-level Saints offenses once did, this isn't a conversation about whether Denver competes for one Super Bowl. This becomes a conversation about whether this organization is building something that lasts for years. Broncos country, I want to hear which of these comparisons hit you the hardest. Is it Bo Nix and Drew Brees? Is it Jalen Waddle stepping into that Devery Henderson role? Or is it Darren Sproles literally walking into the building to coach the exact archetype he used to play? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let me know if you see any other matches we missed, and make sure you're subscribed because training camp is right around the corner and we've got a ton to believe in this season. Mile High salute, Broncos country. Let's run it back.